Shanks is a swordsman. In One Piece Volume 101, there is an image that depicts different swordsmen of the story, and Shanks is included. In the few times we've seen him in action, Shanks has always used his sword, even when going against Navy admirals or the other Yonko. This preference for swordsmanship goes as far back as Shanks' boyhood, where he was almost always seen wielding a sword. In the present story, Shanks' sword skill is so renowned that it is used in reference to the world's greatest swordsman. Despite all this though, sword fighting does not have to be Shanks' sole means of engaging in combat. This video will go over what Shanks' other, more hidden fighting style could be and what it would mean for the story. If we go back to that prior image, it actually shows multiple other characters who don't just use their swords in combat. Trafalgar Law has several Devil Fruit abilities that don't require him to use his Kikoku, including some of his awakened techniques. Hachan on the other hand uses some abilities particular to him being a fishman along with his swordsmanship, such as blinding his enemies with ink. Kaku is also a character who relies heavily on his Rokushiki abilities when fighting. Both Hachan and Kaku also canonically refer to themselves as being swordsmen. As the sword is arguably the most widely used weapon in the One Piece world, similar characters who use swordplay in addition to other abilities can be found in virtually every arc of the story. Conversely, using a sword or similar weaponry does not automatically mean that you are a swordsman. Both Mr. One and King the Wildfire reject the title despite possessing considerable skill with the blade. There are also other characters in the story who could be considered too untrained to be viewed as swordsmen, such as Frankie. Yet, what does this all mean for Shanks? While his skill with the sword has been alluded to be second only to Dracule Mihawk, the idea this video proposes is that Shanks is also in fact a martial artist. The main base for this lies in the character of Rayleigh. In the flashback scenes we've seen of him serving as the Roger Pirate's first mate, Rayleigh can be seen fulfilling the role of a disciplinarian to both Shanks and Buggy. The idea here is that Rayleigh was in fact the person who taught Shanks how to fight. As the person who made Luffy go from fighting Pacifista to Doflamingo in 2 years, Rayleigh is evidently a very skilled teacher. Rayleigh could also be the person who originally taught Shanks how to sword fight, as he himself shows a clear preference for using the blade. Where things get interesting though is that the sword is evidently not Rayleigh's only means of fighting. When he first engaged with Admiral Kizaru on Sabaody, Rayleigh deflected his attack with a kick. Later on Rusukaina, Rayleigh used an advanced armament Haki blast on an elephant. It is also noteworthy that Rayleigh managed to successfully train a brawler like Luffy, who has next to no skill or interest in using a sword. If Shanks were in fact both a swordsman and a martial artist, it would be in line with most of the other Yonko we've seen in the story. Whitebeard, Kaido and Big Mom all possess several means of engaging in combat other than using their main weapon. Since the Yonko are constantly under threat from being attacked by the Marines, other pirates or each other, it could be that a varied combat arsenal is somewhat of a necessity for the position. Yet what would actually be Shanks' style of martial arts? As he's a one-handed swordsman, an interesting possibility is that Shanks is very adept at fighting with his legs. As addressed before, Rayleigh himself is seemingly very good at using this form of combat. In other battle manga, characters who, like Shanks, have their hands occupied have also been shown utilizing kicks. Shanks also seemingly has some connection to the world government, and has in the past fought with CP9 agents. It could be possible that he actually is in possession of some Rokushiki techniques. Like Kaku, Shanks could use his Rokushiki kicks and other attacks in conjunction with his swordsmanship. If CP9 agents are already powerful enough to perform kicks that level buildings, one can only imagine how strong kicks done by a Yonko could be. Since you've made it this far into the video, be sure to roundhouse kick the subscription button. Barring Rokushiki, there is also another prevalent martial arts school in One Piece Shanks could be a student of. While Fishman Karate is mainly used by the eponymous fishmen, humans such as Koala and Robin have also been able to learn it. We also know that there were fishmen in the Roger Pirates, so it is possible that they passed some of their knowledge on to Shanks when he was a cabin boy. As many of the Fishman Karate techniques can still be performed by one hand, Shanks losing his left arm to a seeking wouldn't stop him from using the martial art. If Shanks is indeed not a Devil Fruit user and is able to swim, using the fighting style of the fishmen could make him even more powerful. For example, we've already seen other humans such as Law's crewmates become many times stronger when fighting in the water. If Shanks were to be able to manipulate water in the same way as someone like Jinbei, It would be big, as most of the strongest characters in One Piece are devil fruit users who are weak to water. We also already know that Shanks is proficient in this type of counter-fighting, as he also possesses the ability to cancel out other characters' observation Haki. While not the most prevalent part of the story, the pool of martial arts in the One Piece world is very extensive. In fact, most of the Straw Hat Pirates themselves are practitioners of at least one style. Martial arts have also already been shown to be present even at the very zenith of power in the story. Someone like Monkey D. Garp was on the level of the strongest people in history by just using Haki and his own body. Shanks could in some way replicate this and actually be able to fight monsters like the other Yonko even without his sword. In this final part of the video, we'll discuss Luffy's eventual fight with Shanks and how Shanks being a martial artist would affect it. Luffy in chapter 1 promised Shanks that he would end up surpassing the red-haired pirates. Luffy also later literally states that he wants to beat Shanks. Considering their mutual respect for one another, this fight would more than likely be a match, compared to Luffy's other fights where the opponent was trying to kill him. A potential problem, however, is that Shanks could seriously injure Luffy if he were to fight him all out with his sword. While Shanks' motives are still mysterious, it is fairly certain that he doesn't want to kill or maim his protege, whose life he saved on multiple occasions. If Shanks were a martial artist though, he could still have his fight with Luffy while avoiding this risk. He could also still use his sword too, for example by using the unsharp side of his blade, which is what Zoro occasionally does when he doesn't want to seriously injure who he's fighting. In some sense, the fight could be similar to Luffy vs Katakuri, with Luffy's opponent only occasionally using their weapon. One caveat to the fight playing out like this though is that Shanks wouldn't be using his full power against Luffy, which I'm not sure Luffy would approve of. Whether or not Luffy would willingly weaken himself to make the fight even in this kind of a situation is up for debate. Overall though, Shanks being skilled in Rokushiki, Fishman Karate or another form of martial arts could be very interesting for the story. Even outside of Luffy, it could add to Shanks' character and make his upcoming action scenes more compelling. If you've enjoyed this video, you're probably interested in the clash between the Red Hair Pirates and the Blackbeard Pirates that will likely happen in the future of the story. You then should consider watching this video, where I break down who Blackbeard's final crewmate could be. Thanks for watching.